What's up, guys? It's Power 5 Fanatics back at you with Drew and Vince, and we're midway through the season now, and we're going to give you our mid-season top 25 Power
Yep.
5 Fanatics.
This is where this list finally starts to kind of make sense. And,
Yeah,
we're
I think
starting
so.
to be able to
And
compare teams, fairly.
it's going to look a lot different than the AP in some areas. And
I'm sure this list is going to change a lot too, though, because a lot of these teams are going to have to play each other here in the coming weeks. So
the way we look at it, guys, it's less of where you started the season out at, and it's what you look like today.
Right.
And as you'll notice as we go through, a lot of it's going to match up with the AP and some of these other polls, but a lot of it's going to be a lot different. Specifically at the top, just the order they're in. Number one, we got Ohio State, which we had them.
we've had them in
They were number one last week, and they were off.
Yeah.
I don't need to write that, but anyways, they were off this last week, and they've just been one of the teams that's been one of the more complete teams, along with number two, LSU. Of course, they beat Florida
Yeah,
in a pretty good way by 14 points. I
Yeah.
think it was pretty close there for a while, and
They covered, though, because I think the spread
yeah.
was 13.5. LSU's just got a couple big wins. They beat LSU or Florida, last week, and they beat Texas, who competed with, Oklahoma this past weekend. So that win's continuing to look pretty good. LSU's just
it's
won
the
more.
new LSU with the offense
Yeah.
and their passing coordinator.
Joe Burrow, already has more touchdowns this season than he had all of last season by I think he's at 25. He had 16 last season.
He's definitely in the Heisman running at one of the top. Some people would consider him the Heisman top
yeah,
candidate.
maybe the favorite at this moment.
At this point.
Yeah.
3 would be what you would expect, probably Alabama. Of course, they beat A&M at Kyle Field, which I thought was a good win for them.
Yeah.
47-28. It's kind of the way I thought that game was going to turn out, where it was kind of close for the first quarter and a half, and then they just got a whole lot more offense than A&M does. And Alabama, I believe Joe Klatt made a good point today on Fox. He was saying that Alabama's closer to Oklahoma last year than Alabama last year, and I agree with him. They're really just going to outscore you at this point. That's how, if they're going to win the national title, that's how they're going to have to do it.
Yeah. Alabama's just, they have the pedigree, and what's the old saying, good teams win, great teams cover. These teams, these top 4 or 5 teams are covering every single week against the spread. It seems like you have to be able to play offense to be like an elite team.
Yeah.
And, you need to be able to play defense, too. And that's why we have Ohio State number 1, because we do think
their
that they
defense
have
is better than Alabama.
one of the best defenses in the country besides Wisconsin.
Alabama's a little young on their defense and inexperienced, and it's showing some. But their offense, they've just pretty much thrown it on Tua's shoulders.
Yeah, all these quarterbacks and these offenses are able to pile on the points at this point. I mean, they've played some great teams, and they're still able to do it. So.
Speaking of quarterbacks and great offenses, 4, we got Oklahoma, which I think most people at this point would agree they're in the top 4 somewhere. Of course, they beat Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and their defense is really what's getting things done. They're one of those teams that looks like
that was an impressive performance on defense for Oklahoma.
Well, they had 9 sacks, and they only allowed 100 yards of rushing for the entire.
They held Sam
team.
Ehlinger at bay, and I think one of the things we were kind of waiting on is what's Oklahoma. I think we all kind of wanted to see them beat a pretty good team, and they did that. And we also wanted to see how is this defense going to be able to play against a pretty good offense. They passed the test.
Something I just thought of, we didn't plan this, but at least my Heisman Trophy list would be these teams here, the quarterbacks of these teams. So I think it's more than just a coincidence. You get great quarterback play, and especially if you can throw a defense in there with it, it's hard to beat it at the highest level of college football. 5, we got Clemson.
Yep.
Most people maybe wouldn't have them this low, but again, we run our list on what have you done for me lately, and of course they did beat Florida State, as you thought they would, 45-14. It's just at this point, I have a hard time believing they would beat any of the teams in front of them.
Right.
Unless they're hiding something that they haven't shown us yet, which maybe they are. I don't know. I do think they will be in the playoff because the ACC is in such a down year. I don't see how in the world anybody can beat them at this point in the ACC. So I fully expect them to be 13-0 after they win the ACC championship.
Yeah.
But anyways, we got them 5. So.
And I think, going off of kind of the point we were talking about, these offenses, it just kind of seems like you have to have a great offense at this point, at least this season. And Clemson probably has the second best defense on this top 5. I mean, I think they have a better defense than Oklahoma,
LSU,
their
offense has been
or Alabama,
more inconsistent.
But it's their offense that
they don't have the passing game that some of these other.
And Trevor Lawrence, it's been a little bit disappointing because I know we had him on our preseason Heisman top 5 list. But yeah, I mean, they're just as of right now, and I know last week they were able to kind of, put 48 or whatever they did on Florida State, but
they put 45
there was a lot of turnovers in that game that Florida State had. It was kind of they were able to capitalize on those mistakes, but it's you got.
We'll see what happens.
So yeah,
here in the second half, and once the college playoff polls start coming out here in I think it's the next couple of weeks. It'd be interesting to see where they're going to be at. I mean, I fully expect them to be in the top 4 because on the AP poll, I believe Monday they were 3. But so, anyways, this is our polls, but we'll see how it all washes out. 6, we got maybe the best defense that we're going to talk about. In fact, I would say it is the best defense in my opinion.
They're doing some incredible things on defense right now.
They've allowed 29 points this year in 6 games.
Incredible.
Is that right?
They're averaging 4 points a game given up.
Yeah.
That's less than a touchdown. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, they're putting historic numbers up.
Yeah.
So if Wisconsin wins the national title, which could happen
with that kind of defense,
then you could say, well, you don't have to have a great offense. So we'll see because I think it would take a historically great defense like theirs is shown to be.
It'll be interesting that Wisconsin-Ohio State game here in a couple weeks. That game's going to be huge, and I think it's going to really kind of show us who these teams are. What's Ohio State on offense? What's Wisconsin on defense? That's
Speaking of Big
test.
Ten heavyweights, we got Penn State coming in at 7. Another great defense. They beat Iowa 17-14, or 17-12. I'm sorry, on Saturday, and another school that I consider in the running. They're going to have some things fall in place for them probably at some point. Maybe get a break here or there, but I think they're definitely in the running. I mean, I don't know how you can say they're not because they've really looked pretty good.
Yeah, I'd like to see their offense, pick up a little bit. I know they've kind of just been a little bit inconsistent. I mean, they put up 59 on Maryland, completely
They've slouched a little bit the last couple weeks.
But then they have games like this one where they played Iowa, which, no disrespect to Iowa. They had a great defense,
too.
But then they also had a game like that against Pitt. Those are different weeks. So I'll be interested to see what their offense is able to do. They probably have one of the least proven quarterbacks on this top 7 so far. Cone kind of is a little bit in that category as well for Wisconsin, but
if not the, it'd be the second, second to last. The most approved.
Yeah.
Coming in at 8, we got our team that had the first. I would say there were some other big upsets early this year, but they're the first ranked team to lose to an unranked team, and they were.
That's Georgia.
Yeah, they were way up there too. Georgia was,
and we had them way up there. I don't think we had them as high as.
Yeah, a lot of polls might have them drop further than that, maybe to 10 or 11. We still think they're a good team. They just had one of those days. Fromm had 3 interceptions. South Carolina just had their number, and that kind of stuff happens.
I mean, do we think that Georgia's a better team than South Carolina? Yes, of course we do. We have them number 8 in the nation. I just think, we'll have to see how this progresses beyond here because we do take these games. There has to be some type of consequence for losing games, which is why we moved them down. I still just think they're one of the best teams. I mean, I think they would beat a lot of these.
We're going to find out here in the next month.
So we'll have to see what happens with Georgia.
9, we got Notre Dame, which has been hanging in there. At times they look really good. This week they didn't look as good, beating USC 30-27.
Yeah.
With USC's backup quarterback, even though USC's backup quarterback may be their starting quarterback from here on out.
Slovis.
Yeah, Slovis as a freshman has been very impressive. In fact, I would say, along with Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix.
Yeah.
I would say those three have probably been the most impressive freshman quarterbacks.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
I like Bachmeyer with Boise.
That's right. Oh, and also UCF's quarterback, freshman Gilbert, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apologize to UCF fans. I cannot remember his name at the moment.
His last name's Gilbert, I'm pretty sure.
Tristan Gilbert, I don't know.
Anyway, he's done real good too, but he's been impressive, Slovis has, and really USC's been, considering the injuries and everything else and the pressure they've been under, they've done pretty good.
The talent on that team is undeniable.
I don't think it's going to be enough to keep Helton's job more than likely because they got expectations there, and it doesn't look like the season's going the way they want. But they did put up a good fight against Notre Dame. Anyway, we got Notre Dame in the top 10.
Yeah.
And the last team in the top 10 is Auburn, who's off. We'll see what happens with these guys. Their problem is the SEC and the people above them is just, and of course they've already lost to.
They lost to Florida.
Florida, yeah, and so, I mean, they got an uphill battle. Let's face it. But I'm not completely saying they're out of anything because they're not. They're in there along with number 11 team Oregon. Oregon's looking better every week. Speaking of Auburn, of course they lost to Auburn. Week 1, I believe.
Week 1.
And since then, their defense has just been out of this world. I wouldn't maybe not put it on par with Wisconsin, but close. In the 5 games since then, which they've been undefeated, they've given up 25 points. So they're doing 5 points a game since then. And
I mean, that's just unreal.
They beat Colorado 45-3. So
Colorado's a good team.
I know. You tell me. That's pretty stout.
Yeah.
And I thought up till now, up to this last weekend, I was thinking, I've been saying the whole time, okay, the Pac-12, there's no way the champ's going to get out of there with less than 2 losses. Oregon, I think, might be able to do it.
I mean, they're pretty clearly the best team in the Pac-12.
Yes.
They actually do get to play Washington this weekend, I believe. So
yeah, they pulled ahead at least over the last month and a half, and so
the problem.
I'm a Duck believer right now.
The problem with Oregon and a lot of these other kind of 5 through 11, the rankings is their offense has kind of been inconsistent as well.
Yeah, and that's they do have a great quarterback, but their defense has just been off the charts. And anyways, if it continues that way, I think they may go the rest of the way undefeated, at least in the Pac-12.
Yeah. And they're positioning themselves well to have a chance at the playoffs. So we'll see I think some things have to happen in front of them, but they are positioning themselves pretty well in my mind to, have a legitimate shot at maybe an argument to say we deserve to be there. So
Florida moved down, losing to LSU. That's not a bad loss at all, though, and it was in Baton Rouge. So anyways.
I think you could maybe make an argument that Florida might still need to be, in the top 10. I think we kind of I'll be honest, we kind of overlooked that, thought that they did beat Auburn a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know, we might have them a little bit outranked here, but, 12 is still a great spot for them. Right. I think they proved a lot to me this past week, and I know they lost to LSU, but that's a really tough place to play.
Oh, yeah. Well, LSU is arguably the best team in
I think odds makers right now give that home field like an 8-point benefit, when they're putting a spread on something. So I know they didn't cover in that game, but they definitely fought it out to the end. So it'd be interesting to see where they end up as well.
Third team, we got Michigan. Big Blue just hanging in there. Mm-hmm. They beat Illinois 42-25. They were up in that game 28-0.
Yeah, this game was a weird one.
Yeah, and then I turned it off, came back on, and they won 42-25. They gave up 25 straight points to Illinois. Yeah. So they the Wolverine faithful were really sucking wind there for a while because they thought they were going to blow up. They came back and scored 2 late touchdowns to make it respectable. But
This week they play Penn State
yeah,
in Happy Valley.
Michigan's, again, it's been their offense is the weak link. I know they did score 42 against Illinois, but, it's Illinois.
Just
so.
kind of been inconsistent as well,
I still think they're a good team. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it done. Okay, at 14, we got Utah. I guess the second most consistent team in the Pac-12 after Oregon for sure. They beat Oregon State like you think they would, 52-7.
Yeah.
They're still there. They got everything in front of them, but they got a tough road with Oregon out there still. But hey, they're good. I mean, their defense has been good too.
I definitely think that Utah is the second best team in the Pac-12.
Oh, definitely
right
at this point, without a doubt. 15, we got
Texas.
We dropped Texas down. Texas, their problem is just inconsistencies in the special teams.
Their
defense,
special teams.
Their running game is very weak. In fact, I'd say out of all these teams here, maybe the weakest running game. They got a great quarterback, so they're just missing a few pieces. They can still win the Big 12 though. So
yeah, I've watched
it's going to be tough for them. I do think it's going to be tough for them not to lose another game in the Big 12 because they do have some competition. But, everything's right in front of them still. They just got to win.
Yeah, I've watched the past few Texas games, and I've never seen anything as bad as their special teams. I'm not talking about their kicking or their punting, but their return game has, dropping punts.
Yeah.
Taking out the kickoffs whenever they should just kneel it, catching a kickoff when it is going out of bounds clearly and they would end up on the 35. I've never seen anything like it.
They're just making bonehead plays.
Yeah, but the other thing too is, they're not playing bad on defense considering how injury depleted they are in the secondary. They're getting very thin there though, so we'll see kind of how that continues to play out. They do have to play some good teams down the stretch, so that'll be interesting to see how the rest of the Big 12 kind of plays out along throughout the season. So,
16, we got the first group of 5 team, Boise State, and they very much deserve to be at this spot.
beat Hawaii.
Yeah, beat them pretty good. I mean, that's definitely respectable, 59-37, because Hawaii is actually a good program,
right.
And they have been since the beginning of the year when they beat Arizona. So anyways, they're hanging in there. It's just one of those deals. This year, there's so many really solid football schools in front of them. I just don't think they can climb a whole lot higher.
Yeah, they don't have a whole lot left to build a resume.
Exactly.
They did beat the teams they were supposed to, like the Florida State game. That was an impressive win.
But they can still get a New Year's Day bowl, and so they got a lot of good things in front of them. 17.
Arizona State.
Yeah, Arizona State.
Yeah, we really like this team. They, you talk about
Edwards has really got them playing good.
Yeah.
They beat Washington State 38-34, so they're winning games a lot of different ways. This week it was going to be a shootout with Leach, and that's what happened. In fact, I think they were down, maybe 10 or 14 points at one point.
Yeah.
And, again, their young quarterback, Jaden Daniels, has been playing great this year. He's also very good rushing the ball. In fact, he's the one, he had a rushing touchdown to win the game.
I've been a little bit.
With about 20 seconds left,
Yeah.
which was pretty impressive.
We had Benjamin as one of our potential top running backs, going into the year. I've been a little bit disappointed with Benjamin at running back, but they're just, when you talk about finding ways to win games, Arizona State's been doing that.
Yeah.
They're winning every game by 3 to 4 points.
Yeah.
You can almost book it. They're hanging in there with the good teams. And they're, finding ways
they're doing
to just
everything they
score enough.
I'm trying to remember the only game they've lost was a Michigan State.
They beat Michigan State. It was Colorado.
Colorado, yeah, which is pretty much a shocker.
Again, shows that Colorado, is a pretty good team because they were able to beat Arizona
That's
State.
right. That was like week 2 or 3. We got Baylor at 18, got them moving up Actually, yeah, we did have them move them up just a little
Yeah.
bit. They defeated Texas Tech 33-30 in double overtime. Really, that game, there was a call that is very controversial because the first overtime, maybe the second or third play, they fumbled. Tech got it, and they said it was a false start. So they redid the play, obviously, with the 5 yards. But after the fact, someone said, "Y'all call that wrong." That's beside that. They're 6-0, and so you got to give them respect. They're up there with the next team that I think's gaining more respect every day.
Minnesota.
Yeah, and all of a sudden their defense is playing pretty good because it hadn't been. It was been mainly their offense, but they beat Nebraska 34-7, and that might not be saying a lot, but it's still quite a beatdown they did on the Cornhuskers.
Minnesota, I believe, they fired their defensive coordinator about this time last year.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I think they're 9-1 or 10-1. Like they've kind of been on a run here, quietly with PJ Fleck.
They're in the right division. They don't have the heavyweights with them, but they still got to deal with the heavyweights.
Yeah, but they haven't had to play Wisconsin yet. So they still have some great competition ahead of them, but they have just continued to beat games, and I wouldn't be surprised if they play spoiler for one of those bigger teams either.
20, we got SMU, which was off. So their head coach Sonny Dykes has definitely, I would say, would be a Coach of the Year candidate. That's a tough conference they're in, the AAC,
the American.
And I would say it's definitely the strongest conference after the Power 5 conferences. And so it remains to be seen if they're actually going to be able to get through that unscathed.
They play Temple this week, which they beat Memphis last week.
That's going to be a great game.
I'm excited about that game.
That'll be a really good game. But there are a lot of good teams there, so we'll see if SMU can hang in there. Next, we got Washington, which we probably have them higher than most top 25 polls. They did beat Arizona, though, very handedly in Tucson, 51-27. They've been very inconsistent this year, so I never know what to expect out of the Huskies. This was a good week, so I'm expecting this next one not to be good. It's kind of how their season's been going.
They play Oregon this week, I believe.
So I don't know. It's just they've been Jekyll and Hyde all year long.
It's a big rivalry, though.
Yeah.
Oregon, Washington.
I don't know where they're playing at, but we'll go over that when we do our pick.
I think we picked Arizona to cover in that game, so they exceeded expectations in our mind.
We both had Arizona.
Because we thought we had seen enough out of Arizona to
I can't get a handle on them.
Say that maybe they could cover here, but
22.
Washington did a great job to cover there.
We got Cincinnati, which is a team that's been under the radar, mainly because the ACC has been so weak this year. It's easy to forget about some of these teams, but they beat Houston 38-23, and they just keep winning. So I think they definitely deserve some love in the top 25. We got another SEC team, Missouri. Another one's kind of been flying under the radar. They had that early season loss to Wyoming. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was an eyebrow raiser, and everybody kind of forgot about them after that, but they just keep winning. They beat Ole Miss.
I think they've won 5 in a row or something.
38-27.
Yeah.
24, we got Iowa. Of course, they lost to
Penn State.
Penn State this week.
But it really wasn't a bad loss at all. I mean, they
their defense, it's in the Big Ten, it's them and Wisconsin, I think, are the two best defenses right now. Maybe Ohio State.
Right, yeah, I think Ohio State's
I mean, those are the 3 best defenses.
Michigan, I just think the
Big Michigan also. I think Wisconsin's the best, but then you got about 4 or 5 that are really solid. Even Michigan State at times. They haven't looked good lately, but they've had their moments,
Right.
It's a defensive conference like it is a lot of times. And 25, we got a new team staying in the state of Iowa State. They took out West Virginia 38-14, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I know West Virginia hasn't been great this year, but the knock on Iowa State this year has been their offense. It's kind of been the weak link. They've really played pretty good defense. In this game they did.
Yeah.
They played Texas Tech in Lubbock on Saturday, and so that one's going to be interesting. You would expect a high scoring game, but the Big 12, it's hard to tell at times. But they definitely need to keep winning if they're going to stay in the top 25. But they seem to be trending kind of the way people were thinking.
People were thinking that they might early in the season
at 4-2.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's our top 25. We like it. Comment below on any changes you would have on that. We're looking forward to some great games this weekend, and we'll be talking to you later. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.